Hello everyone, Brian here from Work to Game, and we have a rather deep discussion video here for you today. Today I find myself incredibly frustrated and I feel called to share in the hopes of educating more people about this issue, and to continue and obviously encourage the idea that more research is needed. In a recent article published in the Journal of Psychology of Popular Media Culture, they stressed that there is little scientific evidence to show violent video games lead to real-world violent acts. And therefore they argue that racial stereotypes might actually dictate how these stories are reported. As a gamer and as a parent, I try to challenge my preconceived bias when it comes to violent video games and violence reported in this country. In a recent video over at Game Theory, Matt Pat really kind of dove into this issue. I really appreciate him taking the time to make that video. It meant a lot to me, and thus I wanted to sit down and share this information that recently came out of this article. Now the scientist in me says that let's put everything on the table and figure it out. Let's not be afraid of what we find. Let's dive into it so that we can try to find the right solutions. And a friend of mine once told me very wisely, we should never be afraid of truth. And I try to hold on to that daily. That's why I want to sit down and talk to you about this journal article in the hopes that we can be more aware, more educated on the research that's being done out there. And Newsweek actually did a huge write-up about this article, and I'll include the link in the description below so you can go read it for yourself. But there are some really interesting numbers here, and I want to share those with you right now. Now, the study was actually run in two parts. Part 1 of the study had 169 students around 19 years of age read about a mocked-up deadly high school mass shooting by an 18-year-old. The majority of the people, of the 169 people, were white, and that's just the information they're providing for the study. The mocked-up article described the shooter as an avid fan of violent video games, but didn't overtly link this to the attack. Now, to half of the group, they showed the picture of the shooter as being white, and to the other half, they showed the picture being a minority. The first part of the study actually concluded that people were more likely to blame video games if the perpetrator was white. And then in the second part of the study, they looked at over 205,000 reports of 204 mass shootings that have taken place after 1977, where there were at least 3 victims, not including the shooter, and they were not specifically related to gangs, drugs, or organized crime. Of the total, 131 shooters were white and 73 were a minority. What the study found was that when a shooting took place at a school with a white gunman, games were cited 6.8% of the time, and this was dropped to 0.5% of the time where the incident did not involve a white individual as the shooter. The report concludes that this disparity may have dire consequences and not only affect the perception of video games at the home, but also reflect disparities in the culpability that we assign to criminals depending on their race. The researchers also at this time admit that the study is limited because it solely focused in on male perpetrators, but they hope that these findings will help encourage people to be more careful when discussing the role of media in the context of school shootings. I tell you all this because I feel it's important to share the research that is out there in hopes to better educate ourselves and our understanding of this as an issue. When I read this article, the idea that we are blaming video games as a form of selling papers because it is more click-worthy or share-worthy frustrates me. And now I want to share a little bit of a story. It is related to it. It's very personal in nature, and it also deals with abuse and perpetrators and more. So at this time, if you're an individual who suffered from abuse, I might advise you maybe to stop the video here. I don't want to necessarily trigger you or bring back some bad memories, but I think it's important and it relates overall to the story at hand. A few months back, I had to go get recertified in safe environment training. As a parent and a volunteer at my church and my kids' school, and also being a Catholic, the diocese that mandates that we're trained and continue to work to keep people safe. As a Catholic, I'm incredibly angry and frustrated at the church's leadership and how it's handled and mishandled these issues in the past, and I'm also aware that monsters exist and predators want to find the easiest way to enact evil upon the world. I tell you that story because I have a lot of conversations about how not to just keep my kids safe, but everyone's kids safe. I'm honestly trying not to be a helicopter parent, but I tell you, I'm no fun at parties. The thing in all of these issues is how they relate is how the news is reported today. In class, there was a reporter who shared that they get reports of abuse, which then when brought to the editor asks, "Is it with the Catholic Church?" To which he replied no, and the editor says then, "It's not news." And they also declined to share what publication they work for. I'm not saying that all media is like this. I'm just saying that this is really frustrating. And obviously saying that media has a bias and being shocked at it feels like the proper response should be, yeah, duh. But this makes me reflect back to something John Oliver said in one of his shows about how we need to start paying for our news or we're all going to start paying for it. And how true that feels today. When the news needs to sell so that ads can sell, all we're left is whatever is the most shocking and gets us to click or share with others. What frustrates me the most is I have no solution yet, other than to continue and try to educate people to the best of my ability. Now, I've always viewed Work to Game as an education channel, a way to hopefully bring some joy to people's lives when it comes to video games, but it's also in that charge that I feel the need to make this video, to share this information with you, and I'm going to continue to do so. Obviously, and hopefully not every day. I think we get fatigue, we get bad news fatigue, and it ends up just kind of all blurring together, and it ends up making us tired, and depressed, and just downright just like, we need an escape. And, video games in that case offer obviously a decent escape in that regards. I'm not offering any political solution. All I hear is people fighting over it, and that's not what this is about. And hopefully in the comments below, that's not what that becomes. But as new research has shown, and we're going to keep talking about it because we have to. We can't be afraid of the truth. We can't be afraid of what we don't know. We need to figure that out. And that's why I find this research just so fascinating. Because just having that bias in reporting can perpetrate a narrative and lead us down a path rather than a solution. And if they are to blame, then they are to blame. Let's figure it out. Like Matt Pat said, let's go and figure it out. But all the research shows the exact opposite. So what can we as gamers do? Let's not get mad. Let's not go beat the heads in of people, because that would obviously confirm that that bias. But that way we can work together. We can let people know, and we can challenge ourselves. Like, it's not about just protecting the thing that we might love and enjoy and do together. It might be more or less trying to, obviously, as a society, figure out what works and figure out the right answers going forward. Anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that. I really do appreciate you all for watching and listening. And I wish you all the best. And I want you all to stay safe out there. So I'm gonna leave you with that there. Like always, feel free to reach out to me in the comments below, or DM on Twitter or Discord. We're here for you. We love you. Take care.